Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome everybody to the eGovernment User Group. This is the second one for this year, and I don't know how many of you remember the TSUGs, but it's nice to have the new eGovernment User Group. I want to just remind everyone that the content from these eGovernment User Groups really come from our users, and we really appreciate everyone's feedback. And we have sent out surveys, and the content from today's meeting or for today's meeting is from the surveys that we sent out and asked for everyone to share what they want to see coming into these groups. What do you want to learn? What do you want to know? So, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sean Amsbury.
For those of you who are still unfamiliar with me, maybe this will help. Hi, this is Sean at eGov. Can I help you? I've been on service desk for almost 5 years now. It's been a joy, continues to be a joy. First thing I want to say is quit apologizing. I get calls and, oh, I'm sorry to bother you again. You're not bothering me. You're why I exist. Okay, I love it. I really enjoy what I do. One of the neat things about NIC and our team and our corporate structure is that part of our mission statement is to be the best partner government has ever had. And if I'm even a little bit helpful to you, that means that I'm part of fulfilling that mission. And so feel good about that. I do, okay? You're not bothering me. I am supposed to talk about the service desk and where we're going with it, so and what we've been doing with it. Here are our weekly reports. We provide this report every week to Wally and Michelle and the eGov team, and what it does is kind of shows them how things are going on the service desk. Our goal is to have as few of you calling with trouble tickets as we can, and the way we're going to reach that goal is by providing better self-help resources and help you feel more comfortable with the tools that you use every day. The more comfortable you feel with the tools, the better we've equipped you to use those tools. And so the new ticket graph shows a decline, over time trend of lowering ticket totals, which is good. It means that you're having less and less trouble with the tools that you're using every day. We achieve that by providing on GovSpace a lot of resources in the form of documents and videos for you to go look at yourself. We're going to look at those in just a minute too, so you know where they are and what all is there. Our closed tickets are following the open ticket trend, of course, because the fewer that we open, the fewer we're going to close. But you'll notice it's a slightly less steep line. That's because we're closing more of our aging tickets. So we're closing more tickets than we open each week, which is a good thing. It means your issues that have been around for a while are getting taken care of, and we're having less and less tickets standing open over a long period of time. So that's a good thing. And our open tickets, same thing. They're on a downward trend, which is good. And what that open ticket number is a snapshot of time. That open ticket number is Monday morning when I generate the report. That's how many tickets we have standing open. And of course, I try to make that number as low as I can, but I can't falsely close tickets either. And so that being on a steady downtrend is also a good thing. Again, it's less tickets, less issues hanging over that you're waiting for resolution on. So as low as we can get those numbers is our goal. The lower the better. 1 week since update to customer. That metric stemmed from a concern over communication with you. At a time, there were lots of questions about where do we stand? Where is this issue with you? How important am I in the grand scheme of all your issues? Where does this rank for priority and urgency? And so what we did was we instigated a policy that says we are going to communicate with each one of you that has an open issue every week at least. And if your ticket is live and it's not a change request, you are being communicated with every week. And one of the things you'll notice is in the middle of May, we had a spike up to nine issues that weren't communicated on. Well, I guess my team is right. I have a God-given gift to nag, and when I nag them, they update their tickets. If I don't nag them, they don't. So please excuse that one. I'm not out of town very often. So, but it was the past few weeks, the last month here, the number's been very low, which is very good. Our goal, of course, is to have a 0 in that place every week. So we are reaching that goal. So hopefully you feel that communication is happening on a reasonable basis, that you're staying informed about your issues. If you have questions, of course, always update your ticket with a question, and we will respond. Okay? Too far. There we go. This page shows how well we're meeting our service level agreement, which is how quickly we get to your issues. The service level response targets, if it's green, we've met the goal. We've met our mark. If it's red, that one, we didn't. For whatever reason, it took longer than expected to respond to your issue. On the right-hand side, you'll see the average response times. Now, the red line is our service level agreement. That's the goal we have to meet for getting back to you when you log an issue. Okay, that you know we've got it and we are steering it in the right direction for diagnosis and resolution. The green line is the actual times. I'm kind of proud of that because the green line is a long way below the red line. And it's still not good enough. I don't want to wait because I can. I don't want to wait 4 hours to get back to you when you log a ticket. I want to serve you and get back to you as quickly as I possibly can so that you know your problem is being dealt with. That's the goal. The lines and numbers, that just shows how well it's being met, and that's only as granular as we can go as an hour. Okay? I'm really looking forward to the time when our tools are able to go more granular than that, because I'd love to see the 15 and 20-minute ones up there as well. It shows that we're getting back to you. It shows that we're responding. I hope you feel like we are responsive. And if you ever have any question about, how come it took so long to get back, or I feel like this should have been treated more urgently or something like that, please let us know that. We need to know what your perception is of our service. Okay? And here, as we touched on this at the first slide, the aging issues, they are on a steady downtrend, which is fantastic. If you compare that to, August? We're looking great. We have currently fewer than 20 aging issues, which means any ticket that's over a week or two old. And you can see the granular graph, tickets by age. We keep track of those in 4 categories, and in the last few weeks, all of those categories are coming down and down and down. We have, the way our ticket system works, we can have several tickets that are related to each other. And so if that issue happens to be a big one or a long one, or it takes a lot of collaboration between different technologies, sometimes those can hang on for a while, and they all get resolved at the same time with the same update release. And so that's our goal, is to be able to get as many of those things done as we can to get the older tickets out of the way so that we can move on and attack the newer issues that are, let's face it, some issues are bigger than others. And the older the ticket is, the more fervently we're trying to solve it. And so solving these older tickets is a great thing, and it shows that we are on the right track. The last metric that we take is your perception. Thus far, your perception is pretty good. And I appreciate that, and our team appreciates that. Our whole team sees this report, and our general manager has comments on it most weeks. And lately, he has been very pleased, and our team is very encouraged. We really appreciate the good marks and the good comments. But please, again, let us know. Feel free to leave a good mark or a good comment, but also feel free to say, this could have been better, or whatever it is. Whatever it is that you feel could have been better, let us know that. We want to improve our service to you. We want to be that best partner that you've ever had. So help us do that with your remarks. I'm going to switch gears now. What's that? Oh, they can. Oh, yeah. This is on GovSpace. How many of you are GovSpace members? How many of you logged into GovSpace in the last 2 weeks? Oh, fantastic. Okay, use GovSpace because all this information, everything we do is on GovSpace pretty much. If you go to the eGov, let's start at the beginning. You log into GovSpace, and somewhere on your opening page, you have this Spaces, what do they call it, widget. And you go to Agencies, Boards, and Commission. You scroll down, and we are the eGov space. There's content there from both the NIC eGov team and the DAS eGov team. We really try to work together and in unity bring you good service and good products. Once you're here in the eGov area, the eGov space, just go to Documents. And the weekly and the monthly reports goes more granular into a much broader spectrum of the eGov program and what we have going on. So feel free to peruse those at your leisure. Weekly service desk is updated every week. Monthly, of course.
Hello. My name is Suzanne Jorgensen. I'm with NIC. We have a quick update on the eGov infrastructure upgrade. We've been sending out a number of emails about that. Is everybody familiar with what I'm talking about when I say the infrastructure upgrade? Mostly nodding heads. Anybody not familiar might be a better question. Okay, good. Well, I won't bore you with a recap of what we've been communicating out. We've been sending updates about once a month, just letting you know what's coming so that you're aware. But the update I have for you today is we've received some feedback from the e-governance board that the current authoring publishing schedule in terms of emergency content update is not as good as it needs to be. And so we've put the infrastructure upgrade activities on hold so that we can further explore how we might improve that process. So we're working with our network teams with Microsoft to try and find ways that we can accommodate emergency content updates. While we're doing that, we are putting the other activities on hold. So we had anticipated moving things over sooner, but in order to kind of meet your needs and accommodate the feedback from the e-governance board, we're working on finding how we might improve that part of the structure. So that's where we're at today. We hope to have more updates for you soon. We're actively in talks with a number of different parties involved, so we're kind of midway through that talk right now. And as soon as we know what the solution will be and then what the schedule will be for the infrastructure upgrade, we will be communicating that to all SPOC. Any questions on that? Nope. All right.
Thank you.
There you go.
All right. And you might as well just stay right here.
Okay.
Because I have a feeling that some questions are going to come your way. Okay. Hi, I'm Tom Fuller, and I am the chair of the e-governance board that Suzanne just referenced. And are there any other of our board members out there? Yep. Okay. Yep. All right, super. Well, this is the board is a group of agency representatives. Most of them are communications people like myself. I'm the communications manager. We're here at the Employment Department, and also some more technical IT types. And our job is really to oversee the portal and help with governance sorts of issues. And it's a great group, and I've really enjoyed being a part of that. And we're going to swap the agenda around just a little bit. Instead of doing the open forum right now, I'm going to update you, and Suzanne's going to probably do a fair amount of talking on the portal redesign, which has been one of our main goals as a board, is to get the new Oregon.gov up and going. And we were hoping that it would happen a lot sooner, and we're just as frustrated as probably a lot of you are. But there was a little bit more rocky transition from TeamSite to SharePoint than everybody anticipated. But now the effort is well underway, and I'll just describe a little bit for you of what we have done, and then Suzanne maybe can talk a little bit about where we are right now. But we're anticipating that this fall, early this fall, she's nodding her head, that we will have the new portal. What that basically means is Oregon.gov. That page will be completely new. It'll be wonderful. It'll be fantastic. It'll be award-winning. But when you get down to the agency level, that part is still yet to change, and I'm going to talk about that here in just a moment. But what we did, and some of you, how many of you are SPOCs here? Live long and prosper. Okay, a lot of you are, which is the single point of contact. And we reached out to the SPOCs and asked for help in determining what were the top tasks that your users that come to your pages have, and some metadata associated with those. How can people find that? What's a plain way of saying what it is that they need to do? And all of that information went to NIC, and they helped use that you'll find it very helpful as the new page comes up, because one of the things that we're going to do with the new page is to have it very search-centric, so that people can come in and just start typing, and all that information that was provided is in a database, and it does a lookup as you type. And so people, if they're looking for a driver's license, they'll start typing in driver's license, and then they'll get choices that they can pick from. So that's just one of the new functions of the portal. So that happened this last fall. And a subgroup of our board got together for several meetings where we did a review of other state websites and even from other countries. And what did we like, what did we not like, in terms of functionality, in terms of look and feel, and that all kind of went into the mix as well. And then about 2 months ago, was it that long? Yeah, a couple months ago, we started work once again. We had to kind of put it on hiatus. We started work once again in terms of getting the redesign actually done. And so we've had a couple, 3 meetings. We've looked at some mock-ups. We've provided the feedback. And so maybe, Suzanne, you can talk a little bit about what you're actually doing right now.
Sure. Thank you, Tom. There we go.
Takes a moment.
Yes. So as Tom mentioned, we spent a lot of time in the fall. We did put the project on hold to improve our service desk. We had a lot of tickets related to transition, and there was a lot of ironing out that needed to be done. So to meet those immediate demands of, you're updating your website today, I need this to work today, we put that on hold so we could address those needs. So everybody's kind of bummed we had to do that, but it was the right thing to do to provide you with the best service we could to support your existing product before we start working on a new product. So now that that's more stable and we're getting good feedback, we've moved on. We continue to do a lot of information gathering. So many of you have filled out your top tasks as you see it from your agency into that SharePoint list that we sent around. If you haven't, please do. Still be helpful for you to update that. If you have a question of what that is, I have a card, or for you online, sjorgensen@egov.com. Please send me a line and I'll shoot you the information again so you can update your top tasks. What we're doing is basically gathering data. We're actually bringing in some extra help to continue gathering data. We're going to be mining all of the sites so that we can provide that robust search that Tom was discussing, because it's a little bit more expanded than a Google search is. It's more directed, and we can point focus to specific things that we want to instead of just a broad range. So we've been gathering data. We've been designing, and we've been getting feedback from the e-governance board. We've also conducted usability testing, our first round of usability testing. So if you remember July, I think, of last year, we had a survey posted on Oregon.gov where it asked people what they wanted in a new portal, what they liked, what they didn't like, lots of information. It was great feedback for the e-governance board. We collected email addresses at that time too, and we said, hey, are you interested in testing our new site? If so, give us your email address. So we got about 260 email addresses out of that, and so we've been using them as our guinea pigs during this test. So we've done, I think, 4 card sorting online usability tests. We've been proposing a new information architecture, so that's the top level navigation, testing out different buckets. We've been giving them top tasks that people conduct on the site currently, and then also top tasks from that data that was provided by many agencies, and sorting things into our new information architecture and testing that out, vetting it. And then we went into design, and we actually conducted in-person usability studies on the new design before we present it to the full board, so that we know we're heading in the right direction and this new site is going to be usable. So we're very excited that we're going to be presenting the prototype to the new board, to the full board on Monday.
Right.
Monday.
Yeah.
So
better get cracking.
Yeah, that's very exciting. It's coming along really well. We're excited to share our progress, and once we get kind of everybody on the board in agreement and everything looks good, we'll begin building it out in a staging environment, and it'll be something that we can share to a broader audience. So progress is being made, and we're on track for fall. So.
Okay. Thank you, Suzanne. So I wanted to go a little bit further than that, because I'm sure you're all very interested and invested in how the Oregon.gov itself looks. But really, I'm sure you're mostly interested in how will my new agency pages look and feel, and the greatest pages that we can create and all that. Well, that's still to come. And where we're at right now, there are kind of 2 things that are going on. One is the contract that the state has with NIC needs some tweaks in it in order to make it easier for NIC to work with agencies to redo their agency websites. Right now, it has to be a new work order, and that's a little bit more cumbersome, takes a little bit longer to kind of put through all the hoops. And there are some agencies that are going through that process. But Wally Rogers, who is going to be here today, is working hard on a process to, instead of making it a work order, it's just a change request. I know that sounds, well, what's the difference there? Well, it makes a big difference in that it is just a lot less process. The idea is that SharePoint was the product, and your agency site is just another use of that product. And so it's kind of a change in understanding with the contract. So once we have that in place, things will go much faster. The board also needs to put in place a process, and we're working on that. We're going to talk more about it on Monday. But I'll give you the kind of the overall, the kind of 50,000-foot level, and then I'll describe to you some things that you can do right now. And I'm going to have these things up on GovSpace so you as agencies will be able to start work on these things. The 50,000-foot level is that your new site will be a migration. Not as bad as it was with TeamSite, but the way that this like-for-like migration was done from TeamSite to SharePoint, it made it so that a lot of the HTML in your sites, there are a lot of tables, there's a lot of markup language, and it doesn't necessarily work well to just go in and, oh, let's change the whole thing. It just won't work that way. So you're going to have to actually probably pull your content out and put it in new templates. But that's really good. And you're saying, oh, yeah, right, that's really good. Because the second part is what we as a board are really strongly recommending is that as an agency, you don't just take the site you have now and put a fresh coat of paint on it. You need to create a new site. There is something that's been sweeping the web for several years now, and it's called content strategy. And those of you who are on the board will know that this is a song that I've been singing for a while now. Content strategy is really where it's at in terms of the web. And what that means is you are providing your users with the easiest path to the information they need to accomplish the tasks that they want to accomplish. And it requires a lot of work from the individual agency, but it's well worth it. So we're going to be asking agencies when they get in line to have their sites redone that they go through a process of creating and implementing a content strategy. And we have tools, some tools are out there already, but we're going to have more and sort of a process for you as an agency. But I just wanted to discuss it just briefly with you and go over what that process is. But it really starts with developing, and I'm going to use us as an example. I'm trying to use our agency as a guinea pig. And the first thing we did was we developed an overall plan, which was what do you want to accomplish? And in our case, we call it the Customer Communication Project. We want to communicate more clearly with our customers. And for us as an agency, it goes way beyond just the web. But the web portion of it is a part, and we actually made it a part of our agency strategic plan. And so it's really important not only that you have a plan, but that you get executive buy-in. So I've got, there's some great books that you can buy. We'll have resources on GovSpace that can help to arm you with the information you need in terms of why in the world do we want to do this content strategy thing in our agency. One of the best books out there is called Content Strategy for the Web. It's by Christina Halverson. It's the standard for content strategy on the web. So once you have your executives buy-in and sponsorship, you're really good to go. But that's a key, because if you just try to do this on your own, some other executive in one of the divisions of your agency is going to shoot it down, because everybody has ownership over the product that exists right now. And we don't see it as a customer-centered communication device. We see it as a program-oriented communication device. And that is a giant shift in thinking, but it really needs to happen if we're going to provide better service for our customers. So you get executive buy-in and sponsorship, and then one of the first things you need to do is to find out who's looking at your site and what pages. Those are the analytics. They're available to you through NIC. Amazing. When we looked at the analytics for our sites, if a page isn't being looked at, it either means nobody cares, and why in the world is it even out there, or it means it's buried so deeply within your information architecture that nobody can find it. So having those analytics is a real key. And then the next thing to do is what's called a content audit. This can be one of the most painful things that you can do, but one of the most valuable. And again, we have tools on the content strategy space on GovSpace. This is an example of what a page from our content audit looks like. I'm sure you can all read that from here. I can't even read it when I look at it here very closely, but it basically has a link to every page. It has the title, who was assigned to review the content, does the link work, is the link still relevant, the last date it was updated, how often it's used, is the information accurate, current, understandable, relevant, and then go to the homepage and try and reach this link. What steps did you have to take? There's a lot that goes into a content audit, but it'll really show you the weaknesses in your website. And then the next thing that we did was to identify the top tasks, and Suzanne talked about that. So we went out, we first determined that we just had two basic groups of customers, job seekers and businesses for our agency. And so we went through and working from the current website, working from our programs, we developed a list of the top tasks. What do our users need to do? And then it becomes a document. And then we went out and we reviewed other websites, other state workforce websites. What paths did they have to information, and how could that help us? And that became something that went into the review. So then this would be the point at which you would do this sort of card sort that Suzanne was talking about, where you then take the top tasks and the information that you've collected, and you ask people, well, help us, what would you call this? How would you get there? And that can really then inform the next step, which is to develop sort of a flow for your website. And this is what ours looks like, one page of it, and it's got file unemployment taxes, hire an employee, economic information, get help with layoffs, seminars and workshops, sort of the main buckets of tasks, and then the information that's down underneath. This is the beginnings of what you might call a wireframe. There's no design put to it yet at all. And then we went a little step further and did a little bit of design it, this is not what it would look like, but this is how that information architecture would fit on a page. And at that point, you are well down the road to sort of engage in the process with NIC of doing the website migration. See all the steps that had to take place before you even contacted them. The reason for that is because NIC is just going to ask you for all this stuff anyway. And then when if you've already done a lot of it, you're well down the road. So you begin the process with them, and they've got steps for you to go to. But at this point, you're going to need to develop your governance rules. And this is really important because content strategy is all about the life cycle of content, from its creation through its publication to its review to its deletion. And this is the main problem with the web. That whole review and deletion step never gets done. So the web becomes a giant file drawer. Do you have any of those at home? I do, and they are overflowing because it's like supposed to be a black hole where everything goes in but nothing ever comes out. So what happens is our websites become clogged with thousands and thousands of pages that nobody ever looks at, but it makes it really hard for people to actually find anything. So you create this governance, and we're actually as a board working on workflow rules that can be used automatically on your sites. For instance, one of the workflows we're going to work on is when a content item is created, the person who created it, there is a date of review that's set either automatically or by that person, and then an email will be sent to that creator when the review is coming up. If they don't respond, and we'll create some ways so that if that person doesn't work there anymore, it'll go to the right person. But eventually that content will just become unpublished. So that's one way of enforcing a workflow rule of governance. And so then at this point, you start really writing your content strategy, and we've got some examples of them out there on GovSpace in the content strategy area. And then you begin training your staff. What we've done, we've undergone a big training for our staff who are working on the web in plain language, because really that's what it's all about. It's how can the customer understand what it is that you're trying to tell them. And we tend to speak a lot in bureaucratese. I can't even say it. And so it's translating that for the customer. And then you begin to write your new content, and eventually you will deploy it within this new framework. Now, this new framework, let me talk a little bit about that, and I'm almost done. I know I've been talking a long time. The overall theme is consistency within flexibility. That is, we know all agencies aren't the same. A tourism-oriented site is different than a regulatory-oriented site. So what we want to do is to create a series of homepage templates that will work for all the different types of agencies that we have in the boards and commissions. The board will start working on that very soon. Then we will have a set of templates underneath that will go out and look at what's being done now, how can that be done better, what templates can we devise that will help you to do your work and for your customers in a more clear fashion. And so we'll have those available for you too. So by the time your agency is ready to migrate, we'll have homepage templates that can be applied, and then secondary level and tertiary level templates that can be applied. It won't be as constraining as TeamSite in any way, but we want to make sure that we provide the templates that are usable for your particular agency. So anyway, that's kind of a long-winded description of this. Let's just search for content strategy. See if it comes up with a space. Well, you can see if I just search content strategy, there are a lot of things. Welcome to content strategy. Maybe this is it. Yeah, so just go to GovSpace and type in content strategy and look for the link that says welcome to content strategy. And we've got case studies, how-tos, presentations, resources, tools, white papers, all kinds of different things. And we'll be adding a lot to this site here for you. Part of my answer to that question is really the answer to the other question, and that is you really have to start with the executive leadership and get buy-in. Do some education of yourself, get the content strategy book. There are a couple others. Secretary of State, and their goal was to reduce their content by 80%. So it gives you an idea of less is more is really the rule. Okay, anyway.
about.
I have the eGov training site up as well. It's in GovSpace, and really recommend that everybody bookmark that and follow the space. So we have a receive email notification. So anytime anything's posted, if you have this, if you change this and it shows do not send email notifications, that means that you're going to be getting them. So this person right here is not receiving email notifications because it does not say do not receive email notifications. So follow the spaces. I really recommend that.
The way Secretary of State is structured, they're kind of these little silos, audits and elections and corporation division. I mean, they're really almost like agencies within themselves. So their division directors all came together with the Secretary and came to an agreement. We're going to invest in making this redesign happen in terms of staff time. So we're going to commit to redoing our content. So as Tom mentioned, they did commit to reducing their content volume by 80%. They quickly adjusted that to 50% as their goal, and I think that they're probably going to end up at around 30 or 40% in reality. But they shot for the moon, right? They said let's try and make it happen, and then they got pretty far considering where they started out. So that's a really good lesson learned. Is you have to shoot for the whole shebang, and then you'll in reality get somewhere in the middle ground. But if you don't go big and you don't say let's get everybody on board, let's get all the division directors, all the content editors, everybody marching to the same tune, it's really difficult to do something like this because it is a commitment, but it's very worthwhile. The usability studies we've done on this new design have been outstanding. We've had a really good response. It's much more navigable. So I want to kind of show you what the current site, you're probably familiar. But we started off here with these division-centric navigation items. So these are their different divisions. This is very, like many of you probably look at your site, how are we structured? Let's put it on here, how we're structured. So the first step was to kind of say, okay, here's how your agency is structured, but how do your people see you? Because it's different, right? You make your site for your end user. So how is your end user viewing your agency? It's not how your divisions are structured because they don't understand that. They don't know what that is. They look at it in terms of tasks and they call it what they call it would make sense to them, which is often different than what your agency speak is. So kind of figuring out what the difference there was the first step. And it wasn't an enormous change, but it was significant. So you'll see here there's executive, archives, audits, corporation, and elections. These are the names of their divisions. We ended up with business, which is in essence corporations, but nobody calls a corporation. They don't know the name of the division, so it was kind of an easy change. Voting, elections. We discovered that people think about elections and voting as kind of separate items. Although they're one agency or one division within the agency, they're two separate items. Archives, state archives, which is something a little different than just archives, and audit. So you can see there was a pretty significant shift in how the basic structure was put together. Now, executive, you'll notice, is completely gone. Why is that? Well, executive division in essence was the about us, the who is Kate, who are your staff, how do I get a job with your agency, what's your Twitter link, all that sort of stuff didn't really belong. When you think about everything there is to do with Secretary of State, they didn't really belong in the top level navigation. So you see they were moved up here into this sort of secondary navigation, which is meet the Secretary, information about the agency, how to work with us, contact, and social networking links. So that was a very significant upfront task, is revamping. So when we say revamping the information architecture, this is kind of what we're talking about. The other challenge that they had is they have very, very deep content. Archives has so many pages, audits, elections. I mean, there's just so much information here. And so what we found when we did the content audit, that agency did the content audit, that Tom described, is but there's a lot of duplication. And a lot of your sites, I suspect, have the same issue, and that is your navigation isn't fantastic. It's not necessarily intuitive for your end user. And so what you do to fix that is you put content a lot of places, because people aren't able to find it. So if you put it 10 places, they're bound to stumble upon it somewhere, right? It makes sense, and you know, it's kind of the stopgap, right, for what you're working with now. But the root answer here is when you do a redesign, let's think about it more intuitively and let's condense. By getting rid of the duplication, they cut massive amounts of content right off the bat, and they reduce the size of a page. So a page that had, you know, was about 3 scrolls long and it just had dense, just type. You know, you look at the page and all you see is type, and then in there's like 10 exclamation graphics. You know, look at this, look at this, look at this. So there's bolded text and there's highlighted text, and it's like there's so much content on the page, but they're trying to direct you to these specific items. And if you just reduce the content, you can remove all the bullets and the exclamation points, because all that's there is what you need to know. And so in essence, that information that you were trying to really draw their attention to in a sea of text is the only information on the page. And so the end user can really see that a lot easier. So that was the next part of the effort. When looking at the home page, I just want to point out a few exciting pieces. We have a focus on top tasks. And so what that means is, what are people coming to your site to accomplish? Which is much different than let's tell everybody what we want them to know about the agency. It is, what are they actually doing once they get here? And let's feature that on the home page so that people can get to what they're actually there to do as quickly as possible. And so we identified here, see these online services. So these are actual things that they can accomplish online. They're services. Trademark search, researching the historical records, business name search. We identify these through their analytics and through their customer support call. These are their top tasks that people are coming to their site to achieve. Down here we have further, you know, more featured links. This is notary resources. That's also a major function of the Secretary of State, which is funny. When we conducted usability studies, a lot of people didn't even know that these items, the apostille resources, which is you know, notary as well, they didn't know that the Secretary of State did these functions. Because it was so buried, they ended up there somehow, but they ended up there from this Google link way deep into the website, and they had no idea where they were. So really featuring these services on the home page is what they've done here. The second thing that I think is really exciting, and I'm trying to think, I think it's an archive. You'll notice when you go to a secondary page, there's not a lot of content on here. This is the state archive. This is an enormous division. There is this is still obviously in staging. It's not live yet, so there's not full text on everything. But they have 6 things you can do. So the idea is to start funneling people in the right place. They do have an enormous sea of resources and text and information, but how do you get people, you know, siloed into these various places quickly and intuitively? And so the secondary navigation all looks like this, where you have some very easy to understand, simple directions that you can go. So I'll go back to State Archives. So you get here, you get archival records, and you go down another level. And this is really kind of cool. They ran into an issue with the number of text, the amount of text on the page when they got here. And so the solution was put it all up here. You have a lot of text, and you can filter down the content according to these different categories on the right. So if I click local government, that'll remove local government, remove genealogy, remove legislative, remove state, government records, boom, one item on here. So you get quick access to very deep content. Yes.
Everything that Bryce and guys and gals over there in IT are doing, we're going to repurpose so that you'll get
So we'll all benefit from the work done on the Secretary of State side, which is great. They've been a wonderful guinea pig. So we've been able to vet out a lot of this functionality through them. So we'll be able to leverage these concepts and this structure It was built actually to be structured very similar to Business Express. If you've ever been on that site, it's business.org and .gov. They're very similar structures, kind of look and feel, and the similarities between these two sites is kind of what we're talking about with the flexibility within consistency. So you have sites that look like they're in the same family. They have differences to accommodate the agency's specific needs, but you can tell where you are, and there are commonalities between designs so that when the user learns how one site works, they kind of get how the other sites work as well, because the features are the same. So I think this is a really exciting example of a massive site undergoing this project and doing it successfully. I know that the team there, after they launch the second week of July, they will be very excited to share their experiences with you. They have moved their content with existing resources, like Tom was talking about. They've undergone a very extensive content strategy, content audit, content migration. They've actually been reworking all the content on each page. So instead of just moving it over and removing all the markup, they've been condensing that content on the page. So they're changing a lot. It's a significant amount of work, but it's been the feedback from the agency is very positive. It's work, and so people are going to kind of be pulled along, in the process. But once they get there and once they've invested it, they're very happy with the result. And I think they're a terrific example of what we can do with everybody.
Suzanne, I have a question from our online participant. They'd like to know what was the relationship between Nick and the agency SOS in both content strategy, but also the design. How did you work together? What support did you lend to the agency to make sure they were up and running and looking as good as it is now?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was definitely a partnership. As Sean alluded to early on in our discussion, we are looking to be the best partner we can be. So we didn't impose this idea on the agency. They came to us and said, here's what we want to do. Here's our lofty goal. And we said, okay, here's what you need to do to get there. And we provided resources on content strategy, on how to do a content audit. We supported them throughout. So as they ran into roadblocks, we were there to advise and support their efforts. But the decisions made on what the content actually looks like lies with the agency. We conduct usability testing to vet and to propose. So we'll propose, based on the content audit and based on the goals the agencies agree to, which is we want to be task-oriented. We want to serve our end users, who we've identified as these type of people. We will propose a new information architecture and then conduct usability studies with people that that are representative of their user groups and vet that, basically. And so we kind of operate on behalf of the agency in those situations, bring the results back to them, and the agency says, yes, that looks great, make it happen. We build out the structure of the website, and then their content editors go in and fill in the content. As they run into roadblocks throughout that process, we're there to support them, provide continuous training, and do deployment. Does that answer the question?
There was a follow-on question to that of, will the same level of support be made available to other agencies?
Yeah, of course. It is a very support. I don't want to minimize the effort that Secretary of State made to do this. I mean, the lion's share of the work in the content strategy does lie on the agency, because it is your content. You are the knowledgeable people in each of these subject areas. So, the actual, content strategy, defining it, auditing the site, deciding, what can go and what can stay, that was with them, and that would remain with you as well. And that's important because you are the experts. We do provide that supportive role to help you get there.
I'm hoping that you all are as excited as we are about this next piece. This has been requested time and time again. You as agencies have had to wait for this, for us to develop, so you can go live. Some of you have put off some of your projects because you need this so badly in it, and you're not quite sure how much back and forth there's going to be if we develop this for you versus you just going in and doing it. So this is really good news. I hope you are all excited. We are almost ready to release your form building tool. So you can publish your own forms the way you need them published, going to the people, the information that's put in the forms going to the people that you need to have looking at that information, and being able to put it into your individual applications or your individual databases and manipulate that information the way you need to do it. Not worrying about, well, NIC has to develop this for me, and gosh, this is a better idea, but I don't want to wait for weeks for them to make that change for me, so we'll just go. This is exciting stuff. The form builder as it is right now is in staging. It is being tested by some pilot agencies. Okay? Currently, it is its own URL, and again, it's in staging. This is not live. When it is released, it will be available in SharePoint. So going the jumping back and forth here, we're not expecting you to have to put up with that in the official release, and it's possible, depending on what the feedback we get, because we are accepting a lot of feedback from the pilot agencies, the relationship, direct relationship between SharePoint and the form builder may be in the first update, so maybe a month down the road. But either way, the goal here is to have the form builder be directly accessible from the SharePoint environment. We log into the form building application with the same credentials that you use to log into SharePoint. And when you log in to the form builder tool, you will see all of the forms that you have established for your agency. The front page, the form management page, gives you several options. Number one is you create a new form. We'll come back to that. That's the fun part. That's really cool. You have the option to delete any form. You've come to the end of that life cycle for that project. You don't need it anymore. There's no reason to have it confusing the issue. Get rid of it, because it's really easy to build a new one. You have your titles, which always keep your titles of things unique enough for you to recognize it quickly so you can use it without wondering, is that the form? Was that the form? No, make your title descriptive. You can have a description of your form, and you can edit any existing form. Editing is as easy as dragging and dropping fields around. You'll see that in just a minute. Preview a form, which, let's go ahead and preview it. You can see what we're looking at. Simple entry fields, simple submit button, pre-programmed to go to an email address. So let's get in and look at how easy it is to build a form. This is cool. Every time I see this page, it makes me think I'm on a road trip or something. These images look like those highway side information signs that tell you what's coming up on the next exit to me. I like this page. This is your form collection area. This is your repository for the depository for the information you're going to collect. These are the possible information types. What you're going to find as you use this is there are two basic field types. One of them is an entry field. Excuse me, that's the wrong one. One of them is an entry field, like this, that has 13 possible formats. Those formats would be name, or phone number, or email address, or physical address. The other style is this selection style field, which has three options: multiple choice, checkboxes, or drop down. The whole tool boils down to two field types. That's really cool to me because at any time you can change them. Now, as you just noticed, all I did to add a field, you can do it two ways. You can double click a field and it'll put it right there on your form, or you can take any of these fields and drag them and drop them. That's as easy as it is to build a form. As many fields as you want to collect the information you need. Getting rid of a field, so you change your mind, you highlight it. You got a delete button down here. Get rid of it. So let's clean this up a little bit. One thing I've noticed, the closer to the title that you click, the more responsive the field is to activate itself. Oops. Form has to have at least one field or else it's not a form. So it won't let you delete the last field. So let's go back and let's build a real simple form here. Let's make name the first field. It's going to require first and last. Well, that's not quite all there is to it, because when I highlight that field, now I have the field properties available to me. The field properties will change depending on how I tell this field that I want it to collect information. Is it a name or a phone number or a website? Is it a number? Now all of a sudden, see, I have a range possibility here that I can accept a certain range of numbers or a certain number of characters in the field and a min-max rating for that. So it's very customizable. It can be as general as you want it to be or as granular as you want it to be. Let's take this back, make it a name field. And can't let it go without an email address on a field anymore, right? So let's put an email field in there. Again, highlight the field, and you can make this thing required. Nobody's going to submit to you without telling you how to get a hold of them. How big is the field is available on all of these. And let's just put a single line of text in there. We can highlight that and say that, well, let's do display as a password field. Now, that may not be real obvious. Display as a password field, it's going to hide the characters if the characters are typed in. And so if this is a field, let's say you have later on in the life cycle of this thing, and you are collecting some kind of sensitive data, the person can type it in without anybody worrying about seeing what's on the form, and it'll be protected from privacy invasion. We move that now so that when we get to the real form, we can do it. So, basic overview, that's a form. That's how you're going to design them. You're going to drag and drop fields around. You're going to set the parameters of those fields and save your form. Now, in playing with this, the one thing I've noticed is if you save your form more often, it'll take less time to process the changes that you make. Section break. This does not accept any input from the end user. It's simply a description of what's coming up. Okay? Let's say that you have a form where you are collecting two different kinds of information. Let's say you're collecting personal information on one part of it, for whatever your purposes are, and professional information on the second part. You can use a section break to say, for the following fields, enter your private residence address, phone number, whatever, and then have a section break and say, for the following fields, enter your professional office addresses, phone numbers, contact information, that kind of thing. So absolutely, that is a non-response field where you can put in whatever you need to for your purposes. One thing, the field labels and descriptions, everything that I have played with has a 255 character limit currently. Now, if that comes up being a problem with the agencies who are in pilot, then that can easily be increased. I think that's probably a default of the program that we're using to build this thing. So currently it's 255. Really, your field labels or field descriptions really shouldn't have any problem bumping up against that. You want people to understand what your form is about, what the fields are about, and how to fill it in a lot faster than it takes to read 255 characters for each field. So we don't expect it to be a problem, but if there's any need for it, we can change that. How does the guidelines for the user work? It is indeed. Guidelines for the user, let's select one that we're actually going to see. Guidelines for the user, if I enter that as a simple statement, what that'll do is on the form, when I believe it's when the field is hovered over, the tooltip will show up and say enter name here. I'm not sure if it's all the time. I don't remember if it's all the time or when the field is hovered over, but we're going to see that in just a minute. Okay? So you can give your end users an awful lot of help here between the section breaks and the tooltips, the guidelines. You can give them an awful lot of help in filling this form out correctly. You can establish what pattern they should use for their phone numbers, or a certain range of acceptable values. Say you're collecting. Well, it doesn't matter. Whatever you're collecting, you can just define what those values should be, what the range should be. To tell them, it may help them to know that you have limited that, because maybe you're collecting the OR number, your state of play ID number. Well, you're going to limit that to either 7 or 9 characters, depending if you want the OR with it. And you may have a tooltip there that says, enter your employee ID number, including the OR here. And then you can eliminate the bots coming in and filling these things out with some random things. They have to be 9 characters long, or else the form doesn't get submitted. Okay, so let's move to our authoring site. You see, I've jumped over to the SharePoint authoring environment. This is staging. And I have created a page here that we'll use for bringing that simple form we just brought in, that we just created, bringing it into a page. The method we're going to use is a web part. So we need to get into edit, whatever page it is. Any page that will allow you to put a web part on it will accept the form. So it can be a part of a larger page. Bottom content web parts, okay. This will, again, here's my article content here. There can be anything else on the page that you want. It can be a regular web page, and you're going to bring it in using a web part. So we're going to add a web part to the bottom of the page. And the web part we're going to use is the NIC Form Builder. It is its own category. So don't look for it under the Oregon V3. It's its own category of web part. That's what we're going to use, and the form viewer is currently the only option. We'll add that web part to our page, and SharePoint will give us a list of available forms. And again, that's going to be a list of the forms that you have built as an agency. So you're not going to have 400 forms in there from all the agencies to try to sift through. It's just yours. And we just called ours the Great Form. So I'm going to select it from the list by clicking on it. Lo and behold, that's as easy as it is. There's my form in a web part on the page. There's nothing else to do. Your form, as you built it, now exists on the page. There's no other edits necessary here. And so we'll save the page. yeah, an owner will have rights to see whatever they need to see, everything in the agency. I will find that out for you specifically, but the site owner should have rights to do whatever they need to do in the site, including the forms. You can't have what's that? Correct. Yeah, those owners' permissions should give you blanket permissions to handle anything in the agency. Okay, so this is previews, and there's that tooltip. So it's as you hover the mouse over the field and then highlight the field for use, you've got the tooltip there to tell you what to do with that particular field that you have the user, what do they call that field? User description, user help, something like that. It's a tooltip, yeah. And so there it is. And what we'll do is publish it, staging. I don't know how many I put. I think I put 6 in there. Okay. Oh, it's limiting me to 6. Okay, let's only put 1 there. That'll be an error. And we'll make that selection. And now we're going to try to submit this form. We know that email is required, and we know that I put a limit here 2 to 6 characters, and I only entered 1. So to show you the error messages, you click submit, and you have to, this is highlighted, it's required. The asterisk is pretty much an understood form language to say that's a required field all the way across the web. And this tells you, again, it reiterates, hey, you got to have at least 2 and max 6 characters here. So there's 2 characters. There's
the email field know whether or not it's email field.
That's a good question. Let's try it. The email field does not know it's an email field. And so some of those rules would be useful to be able to put in there to say that. So we'll chase the answer to that question down.
There is a question online. Can we add language to indicate that the asterisk means a required field?
Absolutely. In that tooltip area that we had in the form, it's gone. And here, the tooltip that you entered with that form field, you can tell them whatever you want to say. This field is required. You can tell them that in the form description or the field description itself. Those are those fields that are limited to 255 characters right now. You can use that for text to tell them this field is required. So that's our form builder. That gets submitted to whatever email addresses you established that form should go to. If there are no email addresses, the information is still collected and it's put in a can somewhere. And right now that can is being prepared for that batch capture that I was talking about earlier that says this form is submitting it to this can, and that can is going to send an email once a day, once a week, whatever you determine, to say, here's all your form submissions for today, so that you're not inundated. You get a form out there for a specific project and that you want 4,000 people to respond to, you don't have to get 4,000 individual emails. So that batch capture is going to really be a time saver for you.
I want to thank everybody for coming today. Please fill out the survey that we're going to be sending. We'll be sending you, I believe Jason will be sending that out to the group. So please do that, and it'll help us for the next eGov user group have the content that everyone here wants to hear. So thank you. Yes.